Good morning. This might be a long video, and this isn't really for anyone else to watch or listen to, but I need to record it and put it somewhere. I went to bed at about 8 o'clock last night, and I woke up and it was 3:55, and I could tell I was done sleeping, and I have to work today. And the coworker that usually covers the shift kept asking over and over again, am I going to need to come in Wednesday? Which is today. So I can tell she really, really doesn't want to come in. Today would have been Judy Roper's birthday. She died last week on Thursday, the day after St. Patty's Day. She would have been, I think it was 59. She was born 3/23/63, and today is March 23rd, 2022. I woke up from a dream, and usually I record these because of my dreams, and that's mostly why I'm recording this. In my dream, I was in a class by Gordon Ramsay. We were outside at tables. Fortunately, there weren't like any bugs or anything, especially because it got late and it got dark in the dream. And I think it was an art therapy class, like one of the classes on the paper my mom gave me. I've been talking about going to grief counseling, mostly because my dad died a year ago. And a friend of ours has lost both of his parents, and he'd invited us to go to grief counseling with him. The piece of paper my mom gave me had several different kind of grief counseling sessions, but they were mostly art stuff, which was cool. And I was talking about going with my friend. But this one, Gordon apparently was hosting, Gordon Ramsay, which was cool. There was a lot of people in the class, a lot of long tables set up and people sitting at the tables. Before the class started, like days before, we'd been given an assignment to turn in two flavor combinations. I think I picked shrimp and avocado, and I forget what the other one was, but they were meant to be unusual flavor combinations. I intentionally picked ones that I'd never heard of, and also didn't plan cooking with because I don't know that I thought they were good, but I wanted to see what Ramsay would think of them. And then there was one other thing we were supposed to turn in, and I think it was like our dream creation or something. I wasn't sure. But at the beginning of the class session, he read all of them off. He read who came up with the creation, and then read it off, and then kind of gave his feedback on it. And he thought mine were gross. He, after reading off all the flavor combinations, started going down the rows and having people say why they were there. And so there was a wide range of people of different cultures and doing their best to speak English. Some of them had very, very thick accents. And there were a few people that brought their kids, a couple single mothers with their kids that were a little bit out of hand, but they were doing their best. And there was like African, not African, well, there might have been African people, but I do remember specifically a very strongly Asian Indian person, or a couple of them. And we were just going down the line talking, and it wasn't my turn yet. And sometimes Gordon would go on a tangent and talk about himself and how he related to them a little bit, which was kind of cool. But the tone changed. I mean, I looked up at some point and realized, it was like 9 o'clock. I could see on his board that he was presenting on, he had a projection board, whiteboard, so it was white, and it would project like the things they'd submitted, their creation ideas. um, and also a couple other things, and almost like he had a slideshow presentation for it. Um, but you could also see the time, the clock on it like it was a laptop. And it was 9 o'clock, and it had gotten dark. And I think some people were leaving just because it was so late, but a lot of people were staying, probably because it was Gordon Ramsay, or they felt like they had to stay for the whole class. Um, Sorry. Uh, um, but the tone really changed when one guy started telling his story, and you could barely understand him. He had a very thick accent and clearly didn't know a whole lot of English words, and he was doing his best to put them together. But he was kind of agitated to start with, and so Gordon was doing his best to tell him to calm down and try to reiterate so he could understand him. And other people were then jumping in and trying to help too, and trying to figure out what he was saying. And so he was telling where he came from, and it slowly dawned on us as a group that he was from Russia. And he was saying what town he was from and what his home looked like, and then he was stumbling over his words again and talking faster and getting upset and saying, "I'm not a bad guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm not the enemy." um, and at that point was about the time I woke up, but that really wasn't the cause that I woke up. But things had gotten dark, and suddenly I was up near the front of the class with Gordon, and I was holding on to, I think it was somebody's kid, or one of the kids' toys, and he was holding on to something as well, and I'd set something down next to me when I'd come up from my seat further back. Um, and we looked down in the dark, and we could feel and see this rush of water, and it's flood water. Suddenly there's like murky, nasty water all around our ankles, and he's like, "Yeah, we heard this might be coming, that we might have flooding, and we were really hoping it wasn't going to happen, or the class would be over by then." So suddenly there was this scurry of everybody jumping up and running off and crying and screaming, and people running off to get to their homes. Whereas I suddenly looked for my cell phone because I thought maybe I'd left it on the floor back there, and I did find it in my pocket, and it's raining, and he's trying to help me find it and try to keep people calm too. And I try to turn my cell phone light on so I can find my stuff on the floor and help other people find stuff. And no floodlights come on. There are floodlights that should come on in that area, but they don't. So obviously the flood knocked out the electricity in the area too. And all the folding tables we were sitting at had somehow been folded up in that time. It wasn't really logical because people were still sitting at them. So it must have been one of those like time jumps where all the tables were folded up and put away. And I was panicking a little bit because I had stuff on that. And so I go past, and it's like a swimming pool, an indoor swimming pool, like a public indoor swimming pool. And I peek in, and there's people inside swimming and calm and fine and not flooded. But where we were, which was the same level, possibly higher, was in like shin deep water. And one of the people, the employees, had helped people get out and was saying, "Oh, there's a table back there where we put everybody's stuff. Whatever was left behind, we left one table up with their stuff on it." So I went back and found my stuff, and apparently it was just a notebook and one other thing, like my cup, I think, or something. And then I went to head off to where the cars were to ridiculous, try to find my car and get my car, but I wasn't going to be able to go home if it was flooded. And that's when I woke up. Before I woke up too, during people talking about themselves, somebody knocked over one of their oxygen tanks, and it made a weird sound, and Gordon looked, and then we kind of worked out that it was the oxygen tank making a weird ping noise. And unfortunately, one of the people in the crowd who had a neurotic problem of some sort, I don't know, that made them curious, and they started playing with their own oxygen tank, like picking it up and dropping it over and over again. And Gordon's, I'm like, they've got to stop. Whoever it is that's doing that has got to stop. And I said that out loud, and Gordon agreed and repeated, "Stop! You gotta stop dropping the oxygen tank. Don't play with the oxygen tanks." Because from what I understand, there's a lot of pressure in there, and they can explode, and it makes a lot of noise when you hit one, to metal on metal or plastic on it. And it was just like really hurting my nerves. Um, but even after that, one of the kids was like playing with a double oxygen tank and dropping their toy on it, which was a bit more tolerable, but we kind of sent glares that way. Um, that's all I can remember of the dream. My only problem is that I'm up, it's 4:20, I start work at 8:30 and have to work till 4:30, and I'm going to be so exhausted, and there's not going to be any reprieve to it. Yesterday was weird enough. Like, it was like I was half asleep. I was really, really tired. Like, I was awake, I was doing my job, I was doing my best to do my job at like full tilt and not getting anywhere, but everybody else was kind of feeling that same energy where Barbie said it was like a Monday all over again. But I don't need another Monday all over again. I feel like I need a day off and I can't take it. Well, anyway, I might post this just so I don't lose it. I'm trying to write it down, but there's only so much I can remember to write down, so I really hate journaling. Anyway, I wish I could tell Judy happy birthday. And we were gonna go to Red Lobster and bring her some Red Lobster. And Charlie doesn't want to do that. I have enough money, we could do that. I also have a sign that I created for her 2 years ago in 2020. On the one side it says happy birthday Judy, and the other side says please don't die. And I kind of want to put that in her room, even though that'd be kind of weird and macabre. And her birthday card that the nursing home, Life Care Plus, like where I work, as activities, we give the resident a card on their birthday. But I also want to pick up some flowers. So, I mean, I have time to do all that, whereas I probably should try to go back to sleep for a couple hours. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with today, but maybe I'm going to finish writing this and try again to go back to sleep. So, I'll see you after my next dream, guys.